Hey guys, Jeremy from Critical Trigger here, and I hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. Today, I want to discuss a topic that's been on my mind as of late, and that's D-Series. Yeah, D-Series, the new kid on the block. This format was released a little over half a year ago, and after having time to play in it, experience the format, I have some thoughts I want to just talk about and discuss and share with you in this video today. I also want to talk about how I feel about the format moving forward and, well, just how I feel about the format in general. Do I like it? Do I hate it? And yeah, so without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the barrier of entry to Vanguard now. D, as a format, was designed to have a very low point of entry. Anyone can pick up a $5 structured deck and play the game. Speaking of, I think the $5 structure decks were probably the best addition to Vanguard that I can think of in a very, very long time. $5 is super accessible to almost anybody. They can just pull out 5, they have a deck ready to play. They don't have to buy multiple copies of the deck. Everything's ready to play out the box, and you're good to go. I also like how the strategies that are contained in the structure decks are actually like real decks. I mean, Bastion, Bruce, those two are structure decks. Most of the decks in the current metagame are structure decks that are just upgraded with cards from the sets. And I think this new kind of design of creating archetypes and stuff like that is awesome. You're able to segment support onto these decks with each set, and it's actually quite good. I mean, before in V, you had to buy a whole new deck every time a set released. This is very, very expensive and very unsustainable for your player base. With this new kind of system that Boucher created, all you have to do, you pick up the support cards that you want for your deck, and that's it. You feel a kind of progression as the format goes on, and I think that's awesome. Hence why I love the new release structure, in that instead of making the boxes like 4 clans from the total selection of clans, I love that it supports everything in each box. I think that's a fantastic addition. Makes the game extremely affordable, as you know, you have so many of these cards in circulation now in the secondary market, and it's very easy for you to build up your deck. It's very satisfying too, like I said, as you do feel a sense of growth in your deck now. It's not just, oh, I build this deck, I play it for 2 formats, and then this next set release, okay, I'm gonna dump this deck. I'm not gonna play it anymore because it's power correct. I also do like how simple the game is, especially for new players. The game is pretty much in a sense that the game states are not very complex, and the lines of play are very few. But I do think that's a double-edged sword. While it's very good for new players, for experienced players, they're gonna find that really boring, really stale, and the format's gonna get old really fast. You can only take so much of playing Bastion and just attack, 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 restand, attack. But you know, that also has a kind of similar feel to what V was at the start. I mean, if you look at the starting VRs of V, you look at a card like Kim Knight's Alfred, which is literally Counterblast 1, call a Blaster Blade, you have a Blaster Blade on Rearguard plus 10. That's like super duper simple. I mean, a lot of people were complaining because they went from G, which is a really healthy and a really skill-based format with all these lines of play, lots of things to do, to Counterblast 1 plus 10k. And in a sense, that's where Overdress is right now. Overdress is in a very simple kind of game state where the effects are few and far between, and they're all very simple. But that's also a good thing and a bad thing, as new players can look at this and be like, yeah, Bastion is a deck that attacks 4 times. Nirvana is a deck that pumps your front row plus 10. Probably the most complex deck right now is probably something like Bruce, but even then, compared to some mechanics that you've seen in V or in past iterations of Vanguard, it's pretty negligible. It's like pretty basic. Speaking of Bruce, I think that is a problem right now. Bruce as a deck has gotten way too much support, in my opinion. Bruce has gotten good support in wave 1 with Marjorie is very good. Set 2, they get Leonard. Leonard is a meta shifting card, as it literally changes how people play the game. Like, people are not wanting to field back row rear guards because they don't want to get hit by Leonard and have to deal with his shenanigans. That's like insane that we're only 2 sets in and there's a card that shifts how people are going to play the game. And then set 3, they get Derek, which gives him retire and pluses to your soul and to your field. It just feels so overwhelming to play against a deck that feels so chock full of good cards in a format where the card pool is so tiny at the moment that you feel like you don't have enough cards to deal with it. You just feel like it's so unbalanced towards Bruce because he has all this stuff and then you have pretty much nothing. Like Bastion has gotten 3 years of support and the deck has been exactly the same since set 1, which, to be fair, is pretty good. But at this point, all the other decks have caught up to Bastion, and Bruce has far surpassed it. And it's just really hard to play against Bruce because it's so overwhelmingly chock full of quality cards. I'm sure in time, this problem will be fixed as they bring up the rest of the decks along with Bruce. It'll do a kind of Bastion treatment because Bastion in set 1 was overwhelmingly the best deck. Bruce came very close, but when Leonard released in set 2, it definitely shifted the power balance between the two. And now Bruce is probably the better deck, Bastion a close second. But when Derek releases, I think Bastion is by far nowhere close to Bruce. I think Bruce is overwhelmingly the best deck after set 3. But in time, I know, like I said, the issue will fix itself as they release more cards, they release more effects, and they give these strategies more toys to play with. But the question is, how long is it going to be until other decks catch up to Bruce? Which is my really big concern, actually, about the format right now. But another thing I did like about the format, moving away from something I didn't really like about the format so far, ride decks. Nothing is worse in Vanguard than getting grade stack. I know we've all had games where we open our starting hand, we see no grade 1, and we're like, oh no, this is not good. So you're forced to B assist, G assist, whatever you decide to call it. Check top 5, either you hit and you are forced to lose 2 cards, or you miss. And in V, if you ever miss a G assist, the game was almost unwinnable for you, especially if you were going second. Like, if your opponent got to ride to grade 3 and you were stuck on grade 1, the game is done. And that felt awful. So the ride deck taking out the ability to lose due to getting grade stuck, I think that's fantastic. That was one of the best gameplay additions to the game. And also, it allows for creative deck builds like Bastion to exist. I mean, it was like a meme to have that many grade 3s in your deck before D. But because you have a ride deck, you have a guaranteed ride up to grade 3, you can play a deck full of grade 3s. And it's pretty good, right? Bastion is a very strong deck. It's 4-attack deck in a format that doesn't have a lot of multi-attacks. It's just very good. And like I said, ride deck, that enables it. You can't play that kind of deck consistently if there was no ride deck, as you need to run multitudes of grade 1s and 2s in order for you to you know, not get grade stuck. With its ups, there comes another problem. Another gameplay addition that they added in Overdress is the Overtrigger. So the Overtrigger has been incredibly divisive among the community, and personally, I am not the biggest fan of it. I understand both sides of the argument, right? Overtriggers are cool. They allow your clan to have a unique flavor to them, and it gives effects based off the clan. That's what I mean. And I like that idea. I like the idea of there being a unique trigger for each clan. That's really cool. What I don't like is the 100 million power. I think that's really dumb, and I think it makes for some pretty awful gameplay experiences. Because no matter how well or how poorly a player is playing, their game can shift based entirely off of triggering an Overtrigger or not. And I understand that the thrill of Vanguard is luck. That's in like most Bushiroad games. I'm not going to deny that Vanguard is a somewhat luck-based game, but it does feel kind of bad to lose to something that's completely out of your control, and there's such a low percent of your opponent hitting it. Because it's a one-up, right? You're not expecting your opponent to hit the Overtrigger, but sometimes you have to play around, oh, what if they hit the Overtrigger? So sometimes you have to perfect guard an attack that you'd normally take because you have to worry about an Overtrigger. Things like that. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's a very cool gameplay addition. I just wish that the power wasn't 100 million. I see both sides of the argument here on liking it or disliking it, but I am, for now, on the side of not really liking the change, but I'm down to have my mind changed about it. So, I've given my thoughts on a couple of things in the D format, but that begs the question, what do I really think about Overdress as a format, as a whole? Well, honestly, I think as a lover of Vanguard and someone who wants to see the game grow and flourish, I think D is amazing. D is super easy to play, it's super easy to pick up, and it is the best barrier of entry that I've ever seen in any card game. Period. I can't think of another card game that's as easy to pick up as Vanguard right now. You could argue, some people could argue Magic, things like that, but those start decks aren't competitive. You can pick up a Bastion start deck and immediately have a pretty decent deck. You can just add like literally any number of grade 3s that you want just by buying random packs, and you slowly develop your deck into something awesome. And I think that is super cool, especially for a new player. They get a feeling of growth in the game and a feeling of just accomplishment as they slowly build up the deck. I don't think there has been a better time to play Vanguard other than right now. Right now is the best time to start playing. If you're a new player and you want to start Vanguard, it's super easy. Go to a card shop, buy a start deck, boom, that's it. There's no strings attached. If you want to upgrade your deck, you can, but the start decks on their own, they're more than playable. And the format isn't at a point yet where it just feels like you're losing to people who have these crazy decks like it did in V. Like if you were a new player and you had to play against something like Gavriel or Luard or Melody, it just felt so unfun, which was a big barrier of entry problem for V. I don't think D has that. I think as a whole, regardless of my reservations about its simplicity or how fun I find the game, I think D is an awesome format, and I can't wait to see how many more players it brings to the game. And I think it will only serve as a very healthy start point for Vanguard. It'll bring so many new players, and it's just a great format in general. All in all, though, I'm excited for the future of D. It's not my favorite format. Premium will always have that spot in my heart. I love Premium. The new ban list revived it completely. I mean, I was so excited. I just like bought all these decks to just play it in general. Like, it was, that format will forever have a special place in my heart. But I do think D is very good and extremely healthy for Vanguard as a whole. So those were my thoughts. But I want to know, what are your thoughts? Do you like D? Do you hate it? Make sure to tell me in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion about this. If you liked this kind of discussion video, this kind of discussion / rant video, be sure to let me know as well. As usual, if you enjoyed, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.